Hello and welcome to another tutorial on Excel and statistics. And I just did a tutorial on using the tool pack that comes with Excel to do a correlation. And that's certainly a good way to do that. But it is not the only way. So what I'm going to do in this particular tutorial is I'm going to look at the same numbers that we've been looking at. And I'm going to use a formula. Another characteristic of Excel is you can insert into any given cell on your sheet a formula and have it calculate all kinds of things. In fact, all those statistical tools that are in the tool pack are actually formulas that can be accessed in other ways through Excel. I will also show you a useful tool in developing a graph, or what we would call a scatter plot, that represents the relationship between, in this case, temperature and ice cream sales. And then I'll show you how that might be useful for our individual who is the owner of that particular ice cream shop. So we switch now to the Excel sheet, and you see that my data is still here, and I want to know the correlation between these two, and I can go to my tools, or I can select this box. I'll select this box right here, and I'll put equals. And as I start typing the word correlation, you're going to see already these are formulas that I have access to. So COR, correlation, right there. So I select correlation. And now you'll see it has array 1 and array 2. This is the first column, second column. In this case, however, you do not want to select the titles. So for the first array, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to click and hold and select all of those. And then I'm going to type a comma, and then I'm going to put in array 2. And then I close my parentheses, press return, and there's my correlation. Same as we got in the other. It's the same figure, it's using the same formula. The other one just hides it behind a clever interface. It gives you the whole table that we would do for certainly you can select as many of these as you want. You can select as many columns as you want, and it will create that table that has the relationships between all of those. So instead of going through them individually, it's a lot easier to use the plugin. Now, if you think about each one of these data points, so for each day that we have in our record, in our two distributions here, we have the temperature that day and the sales that day. So let's say that the sales represent ice cream cones, and the person who owns the ice cream place wants to be able to predict how many approximately ice cream cones should they have on hand given the temperature of the day. How do we use this tool, this correlation, to predict how much sales we're going to have based on any future temperature? So the first step in doing that is to create what's called a scatter plot. Now, a scatter plot is a graphical representation of this data. And what it is along the axis, the X and Y axis, the X axis is going to be temperature, and the Y axis is going to be sales, and there's going to be a dot for every one of those pairs. So you look at the temperature, go up until you get to the sales, and it places a dot there. So there's going to be a collection of dots. And the arrangements of that dot actually portrays those shapes, whether they're all like this, or they're all over the place, relates to that correlation number between -1 and +1. But let's see if we can get the scatter plot happening here. So I'm going to switch to Excel. Now this is in my Mac version, so you may have to look around to find out where these tools are. But I'm going to select both columns, and I'm going to go to my Insert tab right here. and then over to, these are all my different charts, and you'll see this one, it kind of looks like there's little spots there. I used the pull down menu, and there's my scatter plot right there, that first one. So I create that graph, and there it is. So here I have my temperatures and then my sales. And you see it sort of has this, it's lower on this end, higher on this end, and they're sort of in a linear fashion. And that's really telling me a lot about the correlation between these. Now, mathematically, there is a line that can be drawn at a certain angle on this graph that best represents this data. Now that line goes by all kinds of names. It's the best fit line, it's the regression line, and in this case what we're looking at, Excel calls it a trend line. It really doesn't matter what it is. What it is a single line that's drawn on that graph that is the best representation of that particular data. Okay, so to do that is quite easy. You can select any one of these points here, any one of these. I select this one, and I'm going to do a control or right click on this, and then I want to add trend line. Simple as that. And there it is. And we got some features over here that come up. So here's the trend line or the regression line right here. And I look over here and it says display equation on chart. And this is when things get exciting. This is the equation for that line. I zoom in there. So y, the number over here as a function of x, is 2.879 times x minus 132.09. What this enables me to do, if I know what the temperature is going to be, I can use this formula to pretty well predict how much sales I'm going to have. So if let's say there's one off the charts here. Let's say it's going to be a super hot day. It's going to be 30 degrees. So I'm going to bring up my calculator here. It's going to be 30 degrees. So I want to insert that x into the formula. So 30 times 28.879 minus 132.09. I'm predicting to make 734 sales. If it is 30 and this trend continues way past over here, that line continues. You can see it's going to go right up to here. Over here is 700. You could predict anywhere along the line. You can look at, let's say it's going to be 26 degrees. It's going to be, well, I'll pick one right here. So it's going to be 17 degrees. What would that be? So I do 17 times 28.879 minus 132.09. I would predict I'm going to make 358. I'll need 358, at least 358 cones that day to make sure I have enough for the sales. These relationships, when we look at a correlation, turn it into a scatter plot, create the regression line, allows us to predict numbers based on known data related to the correlation. We do this with weather, stock prices, the economy, gas prices, all the products and stuff like that, grades, to how they determine the relationship between entrance tests and exit tests when you're going to college. And this stuff is all over the place. It's how we use what we know as statistics to predict what we would see. under certain circumstances. We change one of the variables, how would we expect the other one to change? So very, very kind of cool things, lots of different applications when you have two sets of numbers that actually have a correlation relationship to them. And so it's a great tool for making predictions, and another great way that Excel comes with these nifty tools that you can use across different applications. So I hope that was good, and I will see you at the next tutorial.